I want to go now to something else. Here's another strange photograph. I mean, and you're going to want to turn on your head if as you're watching this. How did you get this?
There used to be an air show up at the Everett airfield. They no longer have it there, and I went up to photograph some events, and the events I think that I went to photograph, there was some mix-up, and they weren't ready for me or something, so I had nothing to photograph. So I'm kind of wandering around the field, and here are these two biplanes, the Ray-Ban Reds, and I went up and talked to them, and I said, could I, this plane that's there, I said, could I sit in the front seat? I'd like to photograph you guys. And they said, sure, come on aboard. So I'm actually turned backwards in the front seat, so I'm looking backwards at these guys.
Who are going upside down.
Who are going upside down.
Did you know what you were getting into when you said that?
Yeah, we discussed it beforehand. I think that the pilot wanted to know, that I wasn't going to freak out or something, and I had a pretty good idea of what was going to happen. What I didn't realize was that doing an inside loop like that, when you come out of it, you get all these G-forces, and so I'm like this, and all of a sudden, the camera and myself, we're all sinking down. I'm sinking down further and further. The G-forces are pulling me down, and so we're briefly upside down. And I didn't have because I was backwards, I couldn't wear the safety harness. So the safety harness is kind of looped around my feet. But if if the safety harness was around my front, there's no way I could turn around backwards. So I just undid that so I could get the picture.
You know, I sure am glad there are people like you who are willing to do that so I can see that stuff, because there's no way, absolutely no way.
It's been the greatest job in the world.
Well, this next photograph is amazing. Let's go see it.
A hot air balloon.
From the inside.
From the inside. There are a bunch of them in the early morning. Hot air balloons take off when the wind is low or light. So there were a bunch of them gathered together. I believe this was down in Kent. And I'm walking along, and here I saw this guy walk in, and I'm thinking, this is going to be interesting. And so I peeked inside, and here, of course, is the gorgeous color around him. Not all the balloons are this colorful. So I had a kind of a lucky break with the neat color, the sunlight coming in from behind, and the balloonist there.
Yeah, well, forgive me, but you seem to have a lot of lucky breaks. I think you're just in the right place because you know what to look for.
Well, that's the secret of a news photographer, being at the right place at the right time and have a camera ready.
Well, something that you have taken a lot of pictures of is Seafair, and we're coming up on Seafair here in a few weeks, and let's go to this first one because I'm not sure if this is the right place at the right time or not. I'm not sure that's the right way to describe this.
Well, this was the Budweiser with Chip Hanauer, who we called Flip Hanauer. Chip is, in my mind, the greatest hydroplane driver living today, even though he's basically retired, but he still goes out and drives occasionally. This was the Budweiser that went out of control on a qualifying run in the South Turn, and I had a 400mm lens. It's a film shot with a motor drive, and I'm firing away. I have a whole sequence of the Bud flying through the air. He ended up upside down, and they have a trap door on the bottom of the hydroplane when the hydroplane's upside down, so they can release him from underneath.
You know, Chip is a friend here of the show. You know, maybe we could talk him into taking you out on one of those things and strapping you onto the side.
With pleasure. I'd love to do it.
Take some pictures.
Chip's a great guy.
So, but this next picture is a difficult one. My goodness, it looks like something out of an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
This again was I believe this was during a race or qualifying. I think it was a race. This is back in the days of the piston hydroplanes that used high octane gasoline, and it was a fuel line break or something. The boat burst into flames. The red helmet in the water is the driver who jumped into the water, and that's a rescue diver that's along with him, and they're kind of paddling away looking at this poor boat that's about to be pretty well burned to a crisp.
Wow. So we have one more picture left, but we're not going to show it yet. We're going to wait just a little bit before we get to that one. I want to ask you, are there ever in your career, are there pictures that you've taken that you wish you hadn't?
I think there's more. There are pictures that I saw that I wish I had taken than the other way around. Just some pictures. I remember, oh, there's been difficult times when you're around people that are maybe sorrowful or have some event happen, and those are the ones that always hurt because you don't want to intrude, but you can feel their pain, and it's sometimes it's hard. I was going to add, if I may, that the staff is not just me. We have 12 wonderful, very talented photographers on the staff, and when you go to the Seattle Times site, not only is there my collection of photos, but there's a great collection of all the rest of the staffers as well, and you get a great selection of different styles of photography as well.
So is that the way it's listed, Greg Gilbert and others?
Not quite.
So again, we're not quite ready for that picture yet, but if there was a young person who is watching the show and says, wow, I've got a really good eye, I'd like to do what he does, how does someone go about doing that?
Well, there are a number of really good photography schools or journalism schools that have photojournalism sections to them. University of Missouri, Kentucky, and I think also too what I did when I wanted to be a photographer, I studied the styles of other photographers. When I was 15 years old, I delivered the Daily Olympian in Olympia, and the Seattle Times would be on the doorstep at the same time, and I would stop, get off my bicycle, and look at the Seattle Times and look at the photos in the Seattle Times, and I wanted more than ever to photograph presidents and chase fire trucks, and 6 years later, that's where I ended up.
Well, instead of chasing fire trucks, let's go to the picture. I think you're chasing something else. Wow.
This was an amazing photo. This was organized by the Oracle people and the Blue Angel pilots. And they had tried this earlier in the season. I think this was in 2005 or 2006. They tried this shot in San Francisco. It didn't work out. So we talked about it here. In the Oracle, the little stunt plane in the middle, they have a much larger plane, twin-engine plane, that they take off the whole side of the plane for photography. I'm harnessed in to the plane. And
so at least you got to make sure that you were going to stay in.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
this is a very large opening, and if it tipped over and I wasn't harnessed in, I would be getting a few last shots. And the two Blue Angels are coming north up the lake, and then we're coming south down the lake. And then we both, in a very coordinated turn, we both turn over Husky Stadium, and the plane is going as fast as it can. The Blue Angels are in their very slow stall maneuver, so they're going as slow as they can, about 200 knots. We're going 200 knots. The first time when we tried it to line up, we turned too late, and so the Blue Angels were ahead of us. So we had to go around and do it again. The second time we missed and we were too early. The third time we went around and we made it. And
absolutely
that was the picture.
Fantastic shot. Greg, thank you very much for being with us. Man, aren't we lucky that there are people, there are artists like that that help preserve memories for all of us. Go to the website, seattletimes.com, look up Greg Gilbert, and look at all the great photography on the website there. We'll see you right here on Public Exposure next week. Take care.